says it's -2 here. -2, sunny. Fucking feels -2, I'll say. I've got like 4 layers on. It has to get super cold for a long time for me to put the heat on. So I'm thinking that after lunchtime it might just warm up and I won't have to put the heat on. But if it stays that cold for like 5-6 hours, even I have to put the heat on. That's the mark of me getting old, I'd say. And then as well as that, if it's cold, it's like starving to death and being cold. They kind of go hand in hand. It's like you will eat more because you're having to work harder to stay warm. So it's like you can have the twin whammy. You know, if things have hit you hard as to where you have to like budget and things like that, you can have the double whammy of no heat and being really hungry because what could keep you going normally, suddenly it's not enough. So yeah, being someone who's like mostly in, it's like, where can we go to warm up? And it's like, you can go to the local pub and spend £5 or something on a pint of lager, which you can drink in a minute if you really want to. So it's like, oh well, must be the old climate change, eh? Must be the old climate change making it cold. I mean, it's like December, isn't it? We live in a world full of half-wits. Just looking on that Twitter. It's like there are some out there who've got a fucking big mouth, and I don't, I've got a big mouth. That's why I'm making a video with a big mouth who can't be wrong, or aren't willing to see the question that's being asked, or even engage understanding what we're getting at. Stick, sex and hammer. Foolish person. Jordan Peterson's been doing his thing this morning on Twitter where people who are giving him shit but doing it anonymously behind a pseudonym or a code name, he's calling them cowards. Use your real name. Online anonymity should end. Right? I'm not saying it should. I'm saying say that. And then you'll get people saying, no. And then it's like, why? Please. Because this is the thing. This is why it's such a good question. He misses it completely, Sticks. He's like, hard no. This will make it easier for the government to attack dissidents. And it's like, okay, well, I use my real name and I'm very vociferous in my resistance to the old empire. They ain't come and lock me up. Made it very difficult for me to get work. But say, Sticks, no one's ever going to give you a job anyway. You never had one. So it's like doing your own thing, not that you'd ever want to be in the employ of someone else. And it's like, well, his name, his identity is out in the world. I mean, hell, he's tried all sorts of things. He's been a singer and all sorts of stuff, hasn't he, in his online career. So, he's put his name out there, but it's a matter of, he's no boss, has he? The thing to do to hurt him would be to, like, convince someone like Amazon to stop publishing him. And what cunts that would make them to do that. So he hasn't got a boss. He hasn't got anyone who's ever going to come down on him. And it'd be a matter of no business in the world could ever clamp down on him in the dead of night, because suddenly half the world would find out about it. And then there'd be an army of people who would come and fight his corner. So it's like his circumstances are much different than anyone else's, than anyone else's. He's a new kind of thing with the nature of how he makes his bread and the internet, and he's like a modern hybrid sort of celebrity business that's like low volume but is able to, over a long enough period of time, build up momentum. Done quite well for himself, I should think. He's one of these people who's got things in the background that are making him an earnings run rate. Loads tried to do that. He succeeded. Loads have tried to do that. Failed. He benefits from never having taken money off YouTube, because YouTube just became everyone's boss. And it's like, then when they started to behave like a boss, everyone complained, oh my God, suddenly you're a boss. Suddenly we have an employer. You've enslaved us. We've been pimped. He didn't have to go through that. Loads of others did. Made whores of them, didn't it? Turned them into crackpots. People say, I'm being censored. When they're not, they're just no longer being paid. So they're lying about censorship. That hasn't helped anyone. Demonetized is not the same as censored. It's like they're trying to censor us. Like, have they censored you though? No. I've had a video censored. Couple, actually, censored. Taken off the internet by YouTube. What were these videos about, John? The 2020 election and Hunter Biden, two separate, both taken down. My account's got a sort of permanent disinformation strike for talking about that 2,000 mules thing. So it's a thing, it's like the way that the world goes, using your own name, right? Using your own name on the internet. I used to use most of my own name. I never used to hide my identity. I used to call myself Brother John. You've given the game away. But saying that, my name is so common that it's like being anonymous anyway. There's about 20 something people with my name in just this town. Hundreds. I've got like the 4th or 5th most common name in the English speaking world. So that kind of is a bit of an anonymity already. So it's like, it's in some ways easy for me to say that, and I accept that. But in using my real name, I've foregone the thing of doxing, where people are attempting to protect their identity when there's always someone out in the world who'll know you. So you can't ever win at that. You're asking the world to stop and start at your command. I've been doxed. It's like, yeah, your next door neighbour knows you. And just like, oh, the world, he's my next door neighbour, he's called, bang, and you're doxed. It's like anyone could dox you. It's like the guy who serves your fucking fries could dox you if he knows you from school. So it's like this fight that they all fought. I'm trying to protect my identity when I could be seen as being a vicious bastard on the internet. Now, I'm a vicious bastard on the internet, right? But I use my real name, so I'm like, well, come at me. Now, vicious bastard on the internet that you can't come at. World of difference. So in using my real name, I've got like, this is me telling you to fuck off. Not someone hiding, even though I am hiding because I'm typing into a computer in my own living room. So I'm safe, aren't I, from an instant repercussion, but it's not to say there isn't one. And it's not to say there won't be. So the question should be, it's like, this is a matter of, because my experience is like me being someone who you can go away and find out about on the internet has not done me any favours, because there's so many people out there I've said some things in the past that have been misconstrued as to say, oh my God, who is this guy, right? Because I talk out loud, so you end up doing that, right? You can't escape from it, you will. And you'll always be misunderstood if you're someone who talks the way I do, because it's a matter of there's no snippet. There's a million snippets you could take out of context, which has been done before. It's like I've had video of full character assassination jobs done on my stuff before. And who's it usually who take umbrage at me? Well, it's like unhinged right-wingers generally. And what do? They accuse me of working for Mossad, being a kind of Israeli asset, and it's a matter of, and what do you guys believe? Well, we believe that Jews run everything. And because you disagree with us, you must work for them too. You're part of the wider Jewish conspiracy. It's like, oh, that's handy, isn't it? So it's like the position I take is, look, if you're ever going to defeat the tyranny of the government, you have to defeat these fucking idiots on your own side first, because they're going to fuck it up for you, because they're as ruthless as the very people that they oppose. So you've got your own problem with fucking narcs, fantasists, fucking fearmongers, hate mongers. You got your own problem with them. It's like, deal with them first, deal with them, and then your opposition will no longer have any ammunition, because I tell you what, it doesn't take much, does it, to set the mob going? And how afraid are people of the mob? And that be a fucking thing, you know. It's like, I read shit in that Guardian, and there's writers in that who basically they take on the world as if they've already got the working class people in the bag. They understand them. They're in their pocket. They can speak on their behalf, and the creature in their pocket, the pet, is a beloved pet that they feel oh so sorry for. If only they had more money, better schools. It's a socialist thinking fucking arsehole speaking on the behalf of many. See, I think of those folk and I'm like, what must it be to be you thinking you know the minds of so many when the world proves you wrong every day? When half your life is avoiding reality smashing you in the face and calling it something different. How the fuck do you live like that and not know? It's like you're up against mainstream wise people to lose the way things are now, the things you had to do to get to where you are, having destroyed you. It's like you're up against monsters here who you can go to them with the video and they'll still call you a liar, call the cops, and they'll see that video disappears from the universe so you can be proven a liar. That's who you're up against. And they think that's clever. They think that's, oh, well, we're winners, aren't we? It's like, we have that winning attitude. It's like, they don't mind cheating and lying to win, and there are those amongst them, their ilk, will celebrate them, saying, these are the guys we want. They get the job done. We love these guys. They did exactly what I'd have done. What's that? Lie. And it's like there's a naivety of that level of dangerous in those who say, yeah, we should let people be anonymous on the internet. Yeah, we should protect people's online anonymity. It's like, let's say you've got some not politically correct opinions on things like the climate, but otherwise your methods and your beliefs and your actions are pretty benign. You don't do anyone no harm but yourself. So you're a private person and you've got an unpopular opinion, so you would maintain we need anonymity, and then not knowing that there are those in the world who use that anonymity as far as their intent will take it to prey upon, lie about, smear, blackmail, gaslight. And he'll be like, oh yeah, I need to keep my online anonymity as well. I really like it. I really think it's great. You and that guy will be on the same side, and you'll be like, well, I don't want to lose my job if my boss finds out that I don't believe in climate change. And he'll be like, I don't want the families of the people I fucked over to find out who I really am, because they'll come round and murder my ass. So it's like you've got these two people who'd be on who'd be at the same position. I need to keep my online anonymity. And it'd be, this is about fear, isn't it? So it's like the right thing to do, and this is the same, I'm not saying change the law, because who the fuck am I? I'm saying, right, if you think, right, that your online anonymity is something that's absolutely crucial and you need to keep it, tell people like Peterson, who's asking the question, tell him why. Tell him what your unique reasons are for being afraid of using your own name, and then we're onto something, aren't we? Then we're really addressing what the world is, aren't we? Right there and then. It's like every one of you guys who uses an anonymous handle, you go and tell him why you choose to. And if it is just to escape from the repercussions of your actions when you're fucking gaslighting people, say that, because that might be what you're into. It's an honest answer. But it's like those who would have it taken away, right? And online anonymity, it's like suddenly, if you think about it, there's another way of thinking about it. Whereas I'm someone who's mouthed off in the past and I've paid the price for it. I've let it be known me, true identity. I've got certain positions that are unpopular, and that's it then. Forget being taken seriously for some of the people look at you and think, well, he's a guy who could fuck up my business. He will fuck up my action, and it's like, why? It's like the people he's picked a fight with, who might want to see him fall on his face, are the kind of people we can't fight against. And they'd be right. Like some nasty feminist person get on and say, I've watched him on YouTube and he's a misogynist and he hates women. And it's like they have to take that kind of thing seriously. So they don't want that. So people would be looking at me as someone to work with. Would be like, he brings that baggage with him that someone could decide one day to use the fucking state or the system as a way of messing with us and messing with our action. If he comes working here, he becomes our action. Can we defend him? And the answer is no, we can't defend him without looking like racist, white supremacist, misogynists ourselves. So it comes to it where it's a matter of, John, your price is now too high. Normally, the risk we would run is whether you can get out of bed in the morning and turn up on time. And it'd be a matter of, you may master that, but that's still not enough. Because any time someone could come along and be doing the thing that's supposedly the right thing, doing the good and legal public service, I'm a concerned citizen thing, and just lay down an email or a letter as to say that guy's a known white supremacist, or that guy's a known racist, or he's a known... They can't fight against it. You have to go. They can pull an Al Sharpton. Oh, so you employ racists, do you? And they don't need any proof to back that kind of thing up. So it's like, why would anyone leave themselves open to that? The answer is they won't. So it's like when people talk about cancelled, and they say cancel culture, cancel, it's like, that's what it is. It's like, open your fucking eyes. It's like suddenly your employment risk, because wherever you go is going to end up with a load of work when people follow you there and decide we're going to use the system there against the guy. So you've been cancelled. You're expensive. You've become difficult to deal with in case anyone decides to pick up the stick. So it's like, no offence to you, sir, you seem quite a decent lad. But these people out in the world who have no idea who you are would be happy to see you fall because of things you've said. And that's the world we live in. And things that people say, right, in business is the difference between success and failure. And you, sir, could fuck up our action. And it's like, yeah, it makes perfect sense to me. Oh, yeah, I understand that. I understand that, absolutely. And it'd be funny. And it's like, they know they're being fucked. They know that they can be blackmailed. They know that they can't defend themselves against charges of all these isms. So they can't take you on. But like, it's ridiculous things that happen. And this is probably something that's happened to James Woods. Right? Because James Woods is like Hollywood death now. It's like, you don't want to even say that you have anything to do with him. You know, he's like that. They've made him persona non grata. If you wanted to make a movie and you wanted to put James Woods in it, the people who were financing the movie or else insuring it would be like, no, you can't have him. It's going to cost you extra to insure the movie if you have him. What? Yeah, well, he's bad publicity. Is he now? It's like, there is a marketplace keeping people sidelined professionally. A marketplace keeping people sidelined using these methods, these ways of policing people. And it's right through the system. It's not just something that's on the internet. It's something that's in every workplace. Where you have to pretend the world's something other than what it is, and all pretend to be these decent, civilized people right up until you're not. Or abiding by these rules, being the terms of your employment, and you can be flat out bullied by people who are of the right demographic if they choose to be that cunt, and you can't escape from it. And as soon as you have a problem with it, they have a problem with you, and they're at you first. You're a problem. You're difficult. It's like, no, you're crazy. You're saying I'm difficult because I'm onto you already. You're a fucking tyrant. You like picking on people, don't you? Your enemy's sadism. And people who take pleasure in the suffering of others. Pretending people like that don't exist. Pretending people like that aren't relatively common. You leave yourself wide open to be surprised by what they're capable of. Goes a long way, that online anonymity, but it's a matter of people who get exposed as being like who they are. It's like, who were you ever hoping to kid with your anonymity? You were living a lie. You had a code name. You were like a secret agent, you know, pissing all over the world in a lot of cases, hiding behind a shield of absolute anonymity in almost, you know, something godlike about it, isn't there, being the invisible man, being no one. Being no one and sometimes offering advice and leadership at the same time. While claiming to be the leader of nothing. So like anyone, right, who how many people do I follow now really on the old YouTube platforms? Not so many. I've now started to find new and move around. It's like, if I can't, if someone who say, oh, this guy's got a thing or two to say, if I can't within a minute find out what your real name is, just by throwing some Googles around, if I can't find out what your real name is, it's like, yeah, I'm suddenly sceptical about you. You know, people who don't show their faces, who don't give the real names on the internet, who've been seen as figures who should be respected, it's like, oh my fucking God. It's like, this is planet scam. It's like, look at how gullible people have been about that FTX guy. That guy, a functional retard. So you'd be able to suss him out if you sat in a room with him for 20 minutes and realised that he couldn't fucking behave himself. He couldn't behave himself. He'd start biting his nails and fucking fidgeting. Picking up his phone. You take any real person to spend time in a real room, so it's like we overestimate people's competence and we underestimate people's competence as well, because the internet is about who are you on the internet, and it'd be a matter of number of people who've disappeared who were seen as being a thing or effective and just become ineffective, lazy, ineffectual. You see over in the last 10 years how they've all been just replaced by people who had been sat on the sidelines watching. Older, more experienced people come along and were like, you don't know much about anything really, you mouth off a lot though, don't you? And then bang, 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 bang. It's like I never hear of Vox Day anymore. You just, someone who just took to accusing everybody who stood up against him of being a narcissist while he was the most narcissistic person you can imagine. It's like you get that. You know, if he was somebody who thought he was really smart, it's like, you ain't that smart if you just see shitbirds in every corner. That ain't smart. Knowing shitbirds exist, that's a thing. Seeing them everywhere, that's something else. So much of that, and it'd be a matter of those who do that also have that hate going on. It's the same mechanism. So a guy like that, it's like, well, who if he was to put the blame at someone's door, where would he put it? And it'd be Jews, likely Jews. But well, and you'll say, well, Marxist, and then they'll say, but Marx was a Jew. And you're like, okay. Suddenly stacks up. It's like I'm embarrassed that people who know so little of what others are and are capable of, that they see patterns of behaviour and they go, Nazi. Well, that's Nazis, isn't it? We know what we're looking for. We're looking for Nazis. It's like weird that they behave like degenerate criminals. You know, degenerate criminals is a thing. Degenerate criminals. No, they're white supremacists. No, they're... and it'd be a matter of, well, if I were a criminal up to no good, I would say I was something other than what I was and let you argue about what you think I mean. He's right-wing, no, he's left-wing, no, he's right-wing, no, he's left-wing, and meanwhile, picking everyone's pocket. Stealing Bitcoin wallets. Bet Joe Biden magic. Hacking them. Cyber at you. So yeah, if I was up to no good, you know, Sam Bankman-Fried, right? He's really struggling to be in any trouble for what he's done because he's paid everybody he needed to because he was smart. He knew he was thieving. And he knew there were a chance he might get in trouble for it. So he's like, hey, I'll be able to buy myself a lot of pause, a lot of time here. If I do get in any trouble, I can bullshit my way out of. How? By making sure that everyone gives me the benefit of the doubt. How would they give you the benefit of the doubt? Because I will pay them. And to the stupid people in the world, I'll let them be known that I'm one of them. I'm concerned about the environment. I'm LGBTQ friendly. And they're like, oh, he's such a great guy. He's the kindest billionaire in the world. So it didn't cost much to con them, did it? They were the easiest people in the world to con. He's like, I'll harness the power of the SJW leftist community in my smokescreen and in my defence. Pay all the right people off. Now it's like, we can't do this guy now without looking like the fools we are. Is there a way we can make this go away? Planet dumbass, right? You can sell the psychic scam to people and call it Bitcoin. Because when they say, I don't see how this is a currency, I don't really see where any sort of money comes into this marketplace other than new business. That looks like a Ponzi scheme to me, and over the years I've looked at this market go up and down, and it's like, it behaves like a commodity in times of financial uncertainty. So it's like, this is a refuge, but it's a refuge into what? A currency? It's not gold. And people say, John, you've never been to university, have you? No. You don't know what you're talking about. And then I get a bit of people tell me I'm jealous that I didn't make lots of money out of it. And I'm like, no, it's a scam. I don't like things like that. For me to sell it on, I'd be fucking everyone I spoke to. I'd be deliberately ripping them off. And even if I believed in it, it doesn't make it fucking true. It's like I've worked for firms before that would brainwash its sales team into selling something illegal and say, this is your sales training, these are your instructions. This is what we'd like you to tell the customer. And the salespeople have known no better and have been dragged into crime. I've been around firms who've been like that and then cleaned up their act, but it's been a matter of, no, you're asking me to deliberately mislead people as to tell them what the law of the land is and isn't, and that's fraud. And just because you're telling me to do it in the training room and you're going to pay me a wage for doing it doesn't make it legal. So when you're me and you've blown the whistle like that, use your real name. But I know about this. It's like, you scam the salesman. The first person you need to scam if you're going to scam a product is you need to scam yourself a sales guy. You need to brainwash yourself a zealot who's got all the right skills to sell it for you. And you know, I've been someone where people have had ideas. Often they'll have an idea for a business and they'll write, okay, we need a rainmaker here. Because you're right, often the idea is, it's a scam. It's like, you've not properly looked into it. And they'll say, John, we've got an opportunity here for you. This has been happening to me since about 2000, where people from the outside would try and poach me to go and work for them instead. A big mistake I made that I realise now was that there was one guy in the pub who wanted to poach me to work part-time for him, selling kitchens. Right? And something I didn't get was that the guy who was trying to talk me into doing it, I didn't have much of an idea of his quality of work. right? But I knew the two guys who worked for him, and they were drinking buddies of mine, and they're dickheads, right? And then eventually I got to see quite a bit of their work, and they were the best at doing what they did. And it's like, this is not going around council houses ripping out the old council fittings and putting in something that looks like wood. It's like, no, this was high quality shit. And it's like, these are guys who work a 2-day week and earn themselves £1,000. And I'm like, no, I'd have made a fortune working for those guys. I'm like, I'd have made a cut of everything they did. Everything. And they're still at it now, you know what I mean? They're still doing it. They're still in business. That it's like, you guys have never been short of money. You guys have never been short of work. And they're like, yeah, well, we offered you right at the start to get in, you know, you didn't want the job. It's like, the job's still going. We never got anyone to do it. They don't want the work anymore, though. Now they can charge so much for the labour, they just work and don't work when they want to. It's like sometimes you fuck up, you know, sometimes it's like something comes along that's an opportunity that's small and you're all about, it's like, I do computers to business. It's like, nah, rubbish. It's like, if you can't make double, it's not worth the trouble. You need to get into selling kitchens, you'll make a fortune. Like, really? And they were telling the truth. Yeah, you make a fortune selling kitchens. So it's like, you guys out in the Bitcoin, it's like, fitted kitchens is smart, right? As long as the work that goes in is of a high quality, right? Fitted kitchens is a good business to be in. You'll never find anyone short of money who's in a fitted kitchen. You see, it's tangible, sort of real. It's about living space. It's like, people can pay as much as some people will pay for a house, some people will pay for a kitchen, and then that be living space. And even if they pay £20,000 and £30,000 for it, in some cases it's worth that in its utilities, and it'd be something that adds value to the place and stays. And it'd be a matter of, well, as long as it's maintained, as long as it's looked after properly, you've just added a big chunk of value to your property, and people couldn't resist that, and they still can. It's like an improvement you can make to your home that you benefit from that would add to the value of the property. So it's an investment. It's an investment in living and dying, selling off. There's few fucked up as big as I have in things that I've said, yeah, I'll do that. That sounds like a good idea. And then things where I've thought, no, that's terrible. No, I'm not doing that. I've got it completely wrong. More than one occasion. So what does that point to? Well, it points to like ideological issue. Almost lazy. Looking so far into the future as to see millions that you can't see the thousands you could make next week. Looking after pots of gold instead of pound notes. And it'd be, what the hell is that? So you're an idealist. robbed you. It's just robbed you blind. You're fucking stupid. It makes you blind as a bat. Makes you blind as a bat to opportunity in front of you because you're off thinking about something bigger and wider and wiser that isn't always relevant to what you're doing. Isn't often isn't even there. It's, you know, something that you've been something you've been tricked into seeing. I mean, you can find people, you know, and you know, I'll say something mean like 9 out of 10 people don't know the bar. They're ignorant, selfish piece of crap. But same people, 7 out of 10 of them are likely kind, generous, even amiable, witty, talented. And it's like this Pied Piper, like, I don't know what it is, like some kind of force from the future sort of sucks away their ability to take what they know and apply it to something bigger. And they become confused, and they become stupid, and they become fearful, and then they fall into hate. But it's always something else in the world that distracts them as to whether the big distraction of the world being fucked takes so much away from what you really ought to be doing or what would be productive, that it renders you almost useless in the present moment. And useless in the present moment is like a dream come true for those who might have plotted to bring down Western civilization by force at one time. It's like, we'll be charging these fuckers on the battlefield and they'll be saying, are they coming at us? And have fucking rinsed through half of us before we realise they're under attack. But people trapped in the past, projecting into the future, and they'd be like, who are we up against here, John? And I'm like, fantasists. Really? Without the fantasy, they know one, and they're frightened of that. It's what they're afraid of. What if I'm not really? What if I'm not really a light worker, source of all goodness and great things in the world? What if I'm not really that? Who am I without that? So they see what they are, which is a fucking loser. But the war's not lost yet, is it? You want to try? Say, I glove it for. See, I'll say something that Kanye would say. My experience of life is interesting to say the least, right? In every company I've ever been put in, socially, work-wise, group-wise, from the very start, I've always been the smartest guy in the room. I knew it. And always proven to be right. Usually in skeptical ways, though. Usually right in my skepticism, right in my pessimism. So don't do this. This is a bad idea. Never do this. No, it's a please don't do this. You're making a mistake. This is an error. I can tell you now why it'll go wrong. why it won't work, why it's a mistake. I'll tell you right now, and then be right. And then be, instead of respected because of the people that you objected to, you then become a problem. Why? Because you're a threat. You're a threat. So then they would attempt to like break you and use you and sort of turn you into a stooge, and then your job become to tell them how great their decisions are. So you have to then, to move along, when they work out you're in that way a threat, you then have to teach, you have to show them that you can eat shit forever. Then it becomes your job to tell them what they're doing right, regardless of what they're doing. And if again they see that little rebellious side here that might say, this is a fucking mistake, this is going to go wrong because of this, and this, it's, why do you have to be so problematic? Why do you have to be so difficult? I'm like, oh no, you're committing business suicide, but you don't care because it's not your money. It's like you're overseeing a load of fraud going on and you just don't care because you know it's not going to come back on you. You're not taking responsibility for the business. And it's a matter of the firm I'm talking about. Shit, I mean, out of business like under a cloud. And so many people have come and gone because they left because they were afraid that something fraudulent they'd done would come back and fucking beat them. Some dodgy thing they'd done that they were akin to might come back and lead to like criminal charges and shit. So it'd be a matter of, oh, I'm so clever, what I will do is I will jump ship before the shit hits the fan and then be like magically forgiven. And there's fucking loads of people who've left corpses everywhere, business to business, wherever they've gone, they've been a destructive influence. And they've like burrowed their way through the corporate world. Half-assed, making promises they couldn't keep. The worst one being the guy who does the deal, who makes promises that those who providing the goods he's selling can't meet. It's not going to get there on time. It's not going to do what you said it was going to, but you sell it anyway because you want the deal. And it's like those guys are actually the enemies of, they're the biggest enemies of capitalism, if you like, commerce. The shit salesman, or the scamming salesman, he's the reason why all of it's got such a bad name. The scam con man has played a part in things like the rise of, say robber baron. It's not really the same thing, but the same sort of entails the same thing. So where they can point to so many people who've done scam things as to where maybe the whole thing is a scam. It's like, no, it's not a scam. It's that a lot of individual people have done a lot of scam things to succeed in the moment at the expense of the future. And then when they've done it, they've decided that it was worth it to get paid. And then 6 months later, when they're facing the repercussions of it, they're fucked. It's on my mind, that Sam Bankman-Fried thing. It's like he was really able to sell himself as competent as they thought he was, thinking that he was running a crypto exchange that was worth like 60 billion something. It's like, excuse me? It's like if he had a single competent professional member of staff, they'd be telling him, You can't really do this. It's a Ponzi scheme. They would, because it's not that. When you can see the bugs, when you can see what they're doing, it's not that difficult to see that. And it'd be every single person who's ever worked for that guy is complicit and has enabled him. And it's like that group of people, they can't afford to go down. He can afford to go down, but the group of people who've put money in his pockets, like the institutional investors who've laid money on him, they can't be forgiven for seeing that retard as being something. It was peddling something other than they say crypto's better because there's no central banks. It's like, well, he was a crypto central banker. He was issuing his own fucking script. It's like, what a world we live in where you've got it where, okay, I'm very much of the opinion that Bitcoin is a chain letter scam. Those who farmed it in the first instance, those who put it up, it's like, can we talk to them, please? Can you put them up in front of us? Let's see what they were like, see who they are, see what their motivations are, please. Can you get me the founders of Bitcoin on the line? Who the fuck are these guys? You likely find yourself in the progenitors of Bitcoin as like some of the richest scammers in the world. Right at the core of it. And it like, they've put an incredible amount of money in people's pockets. Through third parties to keep the fucking mouth shut. Incredible. It's like, when I was first skeptical of Bitcoin, which is a long time since, if someone had just, I've never had one of them Bitcoin wallet thing. Well, I have one, but because somebody like tried to make me go, so he could give me some for nothing. He wasn't going to make me a rich man with it. But it's like somebody come along and says, oh, well, we'll give you millions worth of Bitcoin if you just shut the fuck up about it, never talk about it again. No one ever did. It's like, I can't have been so far away from that. If I'd have probably had like 10 times the subscriber count, which is something that certain people seem to think is a valuable commodity, it proves something somehow, then maybe I wouldn't have got some of that free loot. Because I think that's what everyone who shills on YouTube, I think that's how they ended up shilling. Somebody gave them a load of Bitcoin, got them in on it, turned them into a shill, got them in on it. Basically, they were sold it in by Rainmaker guy. You could do a job for us selling fitted kitchens. To another day be, we've invented something called a cryptocurrency, and you're our first guy. And we need to con you into selling it on to these guys. And then it'd be a matter of, from that guy comes your original sales rhetoric. From that guy comes your pitch. And then it's like the way that the chainmail pitch works best is if the guy who makes the original pitch makes it in such a way that the next person down the chain, they're pitching it in the same way too. All pyramid schemes work based on rhetoric like that. It's the pitch. It's like, can you teach someone quickly a pitch? And it's like, teach someone the pitch. Say the thing you're doing. It's like, if you're going to sell a con scheme like a pyramid, you have to make it so that guy you've just sold to knows exactly what he's bought, even though it's a scam, you know. So he can then in turn pass the word and sell it on to the people who he's going to offer the same opportunity to. So it's like you have to identify those who can sell it on. So you have to find certain types of people to sell that thing to. And the trait is actually people who are narcissistic. It's people who think they're smart. If you can con someone who thinks they're smart, they'll fucking intellectually bully people with what they've been told. You want them, and they'll sell it for you. They become an unpaid sales force. It's out into the world. So much of it, isn't there? Some salespeople that the UN keep hiring them like children, straight out of universities. The children of billionaires and things to be the youth ambassador to the UN. Shills, salespeople. Thing about the world is how brazen it is. It's hard to get over it. I wonder if thing like, the most senior policeman in this country, I don't know who it is actually, I really don't know who the top cop in the country is. I don't think he's got power, but in an ideal world, the top cop in the country would be able to watch what's on the news, see what's going on and say, I should go and nick him. Surely I can go and charge him, put him up in front of a court. Top cop in country should be allowed to go and arrest Prime Minister. I wonder if the top cop in country sees things like the FTX scandal, something like that. Well, this guy's obviously just a scammer, a con man. It's like, can we not, if we're the UK's answer to that thing, because we get them, scammers. It's like, who's going arresting this person? And these big people scamming, it's like the cops are like looking at each other saying, is this our job to do something about this? Or is this something that the government have to deal with? Does there have to be a government inquiry? Or can we not just go and arrest this guy for thieving? Do the politicians want this one? Or is it ours? And I think there's a thing about jurisdiction as to that they're looking at each other saying, well, who does this? And whose job is it to police this? And while they're looking at each other, it just carries on. And you can apply that to all kinds of different activities that are illegal and taboo. They're looking at the authorities are looking at each other saying, isn't this your job? We thought it was your job. So you've not been doing anything. No, we've not been doing anything. Oh. Well, who's going to take the blame for it? And well, blame the victims. They brought it on themselves. Well, it works for everybody, doesn't it? It's only a job anyway, isn't it? It's just a job. Cunts who can say that it's just a job. Think, bro, I don't understand why you can't just switch off, why you can't just leave it alone. It's just a job. Like, what must you do for a living if it's just a job? It's like, there's no sweet bliss of basic labour, go and work in a warehouse. There's no escape. It's there too. Radio 2 blasting out at you all day. Absurd rules. Environments that the world of business thinks it understands people better than the world of commerce, if you know what I mean, like retail, where the world that's trying to sell you something assumes you're a decent person, and it's like the corporate world of like the businesses of logistics and supply, they assume that everyone who walks through the door is a scammer and a thief. Search you on the way in and on the way out. Have you walking through metal detectors? It's like they're a bit closer to the real thing than that assumes that people are all lovely. But the two systems run at the same time, and nothing's ever said about by the political end, who the ones who pretend everyone's lovely, misunderstood. They never address the way that the business and corporate world assumes that it's working class employees are thieves slightly on the fiddle. I mean, there's plenty who are, but you have to go a long way to catch them. And I never hear of people getting caught, but I see every technological device in the world being used to try to monitor people's activity, whether they're out driving or whether they're in a workplace, and it's like everybody's monitored, but it's like those who are fiddling are still finding fucking ways to fiddle, because it's a matter of the system sort of assumes that they're dealing with a certain type of person, and the type of person they think they're dealing with is like some kind of impulsive magpie-like creature who's like a kleptomaniac, which is one kind of thief, but it's like you deep fiddling fraudster, you know, who operates in like meeting up on car parks on motorways to, you know, trade illicit goods and the like. It's like they're nowhere near catching him. They're no nearer catching brazen, well-organised people who've put money in the right pockets to guarantee a bit of silence. They're nowhere near organised crime with their monitoring systems. It's almost a joke. You assume everyone's a kleptomaniac, so you catch all the easy-to-catch kleptomaniacs, and you convince yourself that your security is effective against thieves. So I used to work for Woolworths, you know. Big name, long gone. And it's like the warehouse I worked at, every now and then an entire trailer full of goods would go missing. And no one ever found out what happened to it. And it happened quite regular. And it was no one talked about it, really. It was just a chuckle as to, oh, right. Walked into that warehouse one day, and my boss was a guy called Peter Mulock. He comes across as being a bit neurotic, and he is, but he's actually quite a good boss. But he can sometimes fly off the handle and make something out of nothing, and depending what kind of day he's having, but fundamentally did his job well, knew his job, and was generally all right with people. You could catch him at the wrong time, and if he kind of caught you, you'd find excuses to have that kind of guy, a bit neurotic. But I stood next to him. I actually walked down the steps, across this bridge, into the main warehouse, and I could see him, and he was like this. And I'm like, what are we looking at, Peter? He says, 44 pallets of Quality Street. He says, can you see them? I'm like, no. He's like, neither can I. Like, he's there, he's got a sheet in his hand. And he's looking, and it's funny. You know, it's like his car's been nicked. And it was there, and it comes back, and it's been, and he's like this, looking for it. Peter's looking at this fresh air. So we're looking at this fresh air, and somebody else comes past. What are you looking at? And we're like, 44 pallets of Quality Street. And then they're looking up as well, we're all. And you're like, oh no, I wonder how they've managed that. And it'd be, we've got nothing. There's the audit trail says it's there, it's not there, it's been nicked, it's gone. The paperwork says everything's fine, and it's not there. And he'd be like, 4 days later, you know, in places where people partake in a drink, it's like, tins of those Quality Streets are now for sale for like £2 each. It's like, they do Quality Street, but the one they used to love nicking, and this is where it used to get, it was really serious what used to happen there. What they used to like nicking was, back in the old days of VHS video, Scotch video cassettes they used to steal by the articulated lorry load out at Woolworths warehouse at Castleton. Scotch video cassettes. Packs of 4. And they sell them for a £5. They were worth probably about 15 quid if you were to buy them. They were, the best quality video cassettes that were available. And they'd be selling them for a £5. And you'd be seeing, I'd be there and I'd be around the pubs in Rochdale and I'd see somebody and they'd have a pint. There'd be on a scene at the table would be pint, cigarettes, lighter, Scotch video cassettes. I'm like, I work at the place they nicked them from. And I know who everyone involved in it is. I know who's doing it. I know how they get away with it. I know who they pay off. I know what the split is. I know where they meet to split the stuff up. I know exactly how this scam works. I'm not involved in it. I've not received a penny, but I know the ins and outs of how they do this. And it'd be a matter of, why did you never tell anyone, John? Says, because they would fucking murder me if I did. And, right, in the culture, place, right, I live, if people found out it was me who blew the whistle, I'd be persona non grata. I would have to leave this town. And that'd be the truth of it. So it's like you could be sat in that place or with anywhere else. I remember talking to a guy who'd worked there for about 8 years before I'd started, and he'd been sacked, right? And he got sacked, and in being sacked, he said nothing about the scam, and he had a chance to save his job and theoretically save his job and stay out of being a criminal. He had the chance to split, and he sort of said nothing, took the charge on the chin, and just got fired, got prosecuted, said nothing. And it's like organised crime. And it'd be a matter of, it's everywhere. If you blow the whistle against it, those who are up to it are the relatives, they'll come after you. So at the same time, running alongside this system, we've got the police force policing, pronouns, and your government putting lockdowns in place. And it'd be like, there'd be people who'd be locked down like, oh, I'm fucked now. It's like, well, you'll get your furlough money. Yeah, but what about my fiddle? What about the 1,000 quid worth of fuel I steal a week? This has fucked up my gig. This has pissed on my chips of what my real job is. See, they pretend, it's like you've got a world out there that pretends the world of the criminal doesn't exist. And then they make movies, don't they, and celebrate it and say, see, these guys, most people stay out of their way because they're fucking crazy, and it's like the cops don't want to deal with them either, so they just do what they want. They usually just fuck up their own people. And we watch the movie of it and we're like, it's a good movie, isn't it? So you can have all that stuff that's been made that's actually, historically true, like they'd say the Narcos stuff. And it'd be, they forget your law, it's bullshit. It's like those who decide it's bullshit and are willing to pay the price. Willing to. They're never willing to in the end, but they think they are. It's like, they can just stampede through the world, and then having been associated with them to try and, maybe do something about them, be enough in the future to say that you might well be in league with them. And forget it. It's like their ability to then destroy you politically is almost infinite. The kind of people and characters and cutthroats who they've got access to, whether they be real life or in the fucking media, be some real monsters with things to hide, as to where someone from the cartel gets on the phone and said, says do something about Trump. What? I say Scott Adams saying he's not interested in anyone. He's not interested in any political candidate who isn't going to tackle fentanyl. It's like, hang on a minute, right, Scott? It's like you're fucking with someone's action there, aren't you? So now you're actually mouthing off in ways that realistically get people killed. Realistically. It's like now you're looking to fuck with someone's action. And it's like when the government decides to fuck with someone's action, it's like it becomes, then just becomes something it lies about. Because you might, in some regards, you might be better off that drug stay underground as the government become involved in it to do war in its name. And it be a matter of, hey, you're messing with dangerous people's action. It's like they've got a lot invested in this and they don't give a fuck for you. Or what you think's right or wrong, or your laws, or your country, they just want pain. And it's like they'll kill for money. It's like people won't turn up with knives and kill for Bitcoin, but they'll turn up with knives and kill for dollars. Pounds. They'll do that. So it's like the whole, to my mind, it's like the whole, this notion of online anonymity. It's like, yeah, you can defend online anonymity if you pretend that we live in a world where this criminal element that I'm familiar with. You know, I'm in the culture. I'm part of a code of silence, and I know it, and I've always known it. People talk about like Freemasons and handshake brigades and stuff like that, and they don't realise that, you know, you can be a place like this. I can get to be sitting and talking with people who are arch criminals. They're likely not. They're not being criminals, but they are part of a criminal culture, and they know everything that's going on. It's like you get to find out what the truth is, but there's no justice ever. You can sit down between yourself with your mates in say certain folk. You can sit down with them and know that anything that's discussed won't go any further. Why? Because we're talking about illegal shit. Break a code of silence like that where you've been talking to criminals, dodgy people. You mouth off about them, you let it go, and you can expect to be rightfully fucking done to. That's the thing. Culpability. Laws are a joke. You know, notions of like aiding and abetting and culpability and responsibility, joke. It's like the whole world's wears around it. The whole world. It's right. It's like the internet's policing language, and they have algorithms to pick out words and call it hateful, right? Whereas anyone who's anyone would talk in code. Code. In the open. Broadcast in code. How do you broadcast in code? Well, you have a prearranged set of meanings for different words with different meanings, don't you? Or you can even, if you've got people out in the world who you're familiar with, you can code something to them in speech or written that they will know the meaning of, even if it's new code. It's like there's things I notice as to where everyone's operating as a spy on each other. The internet thing is what I think is the next phase on from the first time I ever walked into a pub in England after smoking had been banned and didn't realise smoking had been banned, and I walked into my local Wetherspoon smoking a great big cigar, and there was no less than 12 people. 12 coming at me saying, no, you can't do that. And I'm like, hang on a minute. The government passes a law. The council employs a person who you can report a pub to for letting people smoke indoors. And then members of the general public who feel that they've now been empowered to, they're the ones who'll enforce it. I'm smoking a great big cigar and a fucking army of people come at me, and I'm like, what the fuck's going on here? You're not coming to me, are you? Surrounded. You have to put that cigar out. It's non-smoke. Excuse me? Oh yeah, you're right, it is, isn't it? Members of the public happy to enforce it. So I've seen things expand like that as to where now governments decree, because it came in this thing, I remember when political correctness was first brought in, and it was brought in by the Blair government in 97 in the UK, and then suddenly you say something and then some idiot says, well, that's not very politically correct to say that. It's like, excuse me? And they'd be like, do you know who we're talking about? Yeah, but you still can't talk like that. What? And it was all the jumped up twats who you knew were jumped up twats. It showed them up for being what they were when they started to try to enforce it. And this is like dumbass people in the pub trying to enforce it, and then attempting to get people to gang up on you. And then for the next sort of 4 or 5 years, right, what they did became a sport. Because it was funny. So, in a mocking way, enforcing that shit and catching people out as being racist. I used to play a game back in the 90s where when political correctness came out, was, right, no matter what you say, I can find a way for it to be racist. And I used to sit there, because I've been shown it off these people who tried to enforce it, and I'm like, this is absurd. It's really funny, but it's funny. And so I used to have this way about me, so I can, and I'd read stuff into things. It's like, like double entendre type things. That is probably the funniest thing to ever do, is to be policing someone for dirty thoughts when they say something and you see the double entendre, and then you say, who thinks like that? That's disgusting. And it's like you've just laid it on them. It's not they had a pervy thought, you did, right? And so I've got a mate who's got this dirty mind, and it's like you can just set him up. You can just deliberately say something that could be seen as, and he always thinks of it. So he's just got good at that game of basically laying on the perv. And it's like, I used to do it with the racism. I said, I can find a way of making everything seem racist. And it was a game. And then suddenly, it became reality. And it wasn't a joke anymore. And doing that, it was like, no, I was only kidding. And then it'd be a matter of, well, you're right, but you're right though. Am I? The thing about me is when I'm really taking the piss, it's hard to tell whether I'm serious or I'm good at deadpan fucking with people. It's hard to tell whether I'm joking or I'm serious sometimes if I decide to play it that way. Play it straight. And it was like, suddenly it's like the joke became reality. And I'm like, seriously, I'm not only kidding, it's the most absurd thing anyone's ever fucking thought of, spoke of. This is ridiculously stupid. I'm only joking. And like, no, that's how it is. Is it? So it's like what the SJWs do now to snipe at people is to say, well, that's racist. I used to do that for fun, right? Exactly what they're doing now. I used to do that for fun because it made a mockery of the rules. And it made the rules seem absurd. But now it's actually normalised. And it's like that normalisation process, it's like I can never get past that, how that happened. I experience that firsthand. I can never get over it. It's like these people are, if you can think like that, it's because you're just plumb stupid. And it's like I've known plenty. I'm a working class guy who went to public schools in a mixed bag place. I know stupid real well. And he goes, that's how they think when they've been tricked. It's like, what? I was talking, and then it's like, fucking hell, I've just been talking to so-and-so, and he told me that, you know, the moon is like an orb in space that's just a reflective dish, and it's a matter of it's, you know. Yeah, I told him that earlier on for a laugh. Yeah, I was fucking with him earlier on. He was boring me, so I decided to fill his head with nonsense. Because he believes everything you ever tell him. And then it's like, he's like, yeah, I told him that. He's just been fucking in my head, boring the fuck out of me talking about that. Last 5 minutes, like, what the fuck have you done? Right. Stop brainwashing people, John. It's not funny. And I would... In my time, I've done it where I've brainwashed someone with a fucking crazy story about someone, right? And it'd be plainly ridiculous that if somebody else was to tell it, it's obvious that it was just made up. And then trick them to believing that it were real. Be like, honestly, yeah. And then just have them go around and spread evil gossip about someone that's just so absurd it can't be real, but in its delivery is a kind of meme. Yeah? So I used to love setting people up to do that. And then it's a matter of that from being that funny, but, you know, kind of almost, it teaches a lesson to the person you trick because you do it in a playful way. Because you pull the rug and you say, nah, just bullshitting you, so you go and tell them all that. And they don't fall for it again. And it's not the end of the world because you've got to use it. You get them to believe something about bestiality or something like that. And, you know, there's something absolutely stone fucking ridiculous about, you know, usually some kind of fucking shameful sexual relation that he might believe because he's gullible as fuck and a perv, right? But others, they might just smell the bullshit. So you do that, you seed someone with an obviously bullshit story that, and if you're a real master of that, what you do is beforehand you say, right, I'm going to go and tell so-and-so now this. And by brew time, he's going to be telling you this story I've told. And there'd be a matter of, right, you've heard it, so you be ready for it. And you'd be able to set up, like, phase 2 of the wind-up. Well, we might have it pre-arranged for a group of people to say, did you not know that? Oh, everybody knows that. And then double down on it. And then keep it going till like lunchtime and then be like, all these things I'm hearing about Dave. And it's like, for that, like kind of evil, but for a laugh thing you could do for a bit of sport in a fucking boring old factory. When that becomes the fucking real world, it's like, no wonder they got rid of me. So it doesn't stand against bullshit. None of it. It doesn't stand against lies. It's like lies are the end of it. It's like if you go up against that orthodoxy with lies, No, it can't live with them at all. And I think that's what every fiddler, I think that's what every benefit fiddler, every person who lives off suing people, I think what they all know that. Every fraudster knows that this system of lies cannot in turn stand against lies. And it just bows down for you. Fucking hands over the money. It's like there's other realities at play at the same time as the one that is widely accepted. And it's like the sort of shadow realm reality is going to spill out. And you won't fucking believe it when it does. You're seeing signs of it now as to where it's the dealing with criticism is dealt with. I saw last week. It's called stamping down your authority. And before then it was called rubbing your nose in it. It's like you don't understand your enemy. Long way from being beaten.